What if I told you that one of the most powerful financial advantages a person can have has nothing to do with investing, stock picking, or starting a business? It's something much simpler, and yet millions of people ignore it until the moment they desperately need it. Right now, nearly 45% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. Think about that for a moment. One car repair, one unexpected medical bill, one broken appliance at the worst possible time. For almost half the country, any of those situations would mean pulling out a credit card, borrowing money, or trying to figure out which bills can be delayed until next month. This is the financial reality many people live in. And what makes it even more surprising is that everyone already knows the basic advice. Build an emergency fund. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Always have money set aside for unexpected problems. The advice is everywhere. Books talk about it. Financial experts repeat it constantly. Yet many people still struggle to build that cushion. And the reason why is more interesting than it seems. Because most people think an emergency fund exists only for emergencies. They see it as insurance against bad luck. But the real value of having cash goes much deeper than simply paying for a broken car or a surprise bill. Having cash changes the way you think. It changes the way you negotiate. And most importantly, it changes the decisions you make across your entire life. To understand why, we need to talk about something researchers discovered about the human brain. Scientists from Princeton and Harvard studied what happens when people experience financial scarcity. In other words, when money is tight and uncertainty about bills, rent, or groceries is constantly present. Their findings were surprising. Financial stress doesn't just make people anxious, it actually reduces cognitive capacity. When your brain is constantly worried about money, you have less mental bandwidth available for everything else. Imagine trying to focus on important decisions while a voice in your head keeps repeating questions. How will I pay rent this month? What if the car breaks down? What if I lose my job? That background stress consumes your attention. The researchers described this effect using a concept called tunneling. When people experience financial scarcity, their focus narrows to the most urgent problem directly in front of them. Everything outside that tunnel becomes harder to process. Long-term planning fades into the background. Career strategy becomes difficult. Even opportunities that could improve someone's future become harder to recognize. Not because people are irresponsible or careless, but because their brain is overwhelmed by immediate financial pressure. Now imagine the opposite situation. Imagine you have 6 months of expenses saved in a bank account. You know exactly where the money is. You know you could access it quickly if something unexpected happened. That knowledge removes a huge amount of psychological pressure. The constant background worry disappears. Your brain suddenly has the space to think clearly. Instead of reacting to problems, you can think strategically about the future. And this shift affects many areas of life in ways people rarely notice. Consider the workplace. Imagine two employees working in identical roles. They have the same job title, they work for the same company, they perform similar tasks and earn similar salaries. But there is one difference between them. The first employee has 6 months of living expenses saved. The second employee lives paycheck to paycheck. When performance reviews arrive and salary discussions begin, both employees want higher pay. But their positions are not the same. The employee with savings has negotiating power. They can ask confidently for a raise. They can explain the value they bring to the company. They can push back if the first offer is too low. And if the company refuses to negotiate fairly, they have the freedom to search for other opportunities without panic. The employee without savings feels something completely different. Pressure. Every request feels risky. Every conversation feels like it could threaten their financial stability. So they ask for less. They accept faster. They settle more easily. Not because they lack ability or ambition, but because financial insecurity limits their options. Over a 10-year career, that difference in negotiating confidence can lead to massive differences in income. Two people with the same skills and the same experience can end up earning vastly different amounts simply because one of them had financial breathing room. Cash changes the power dynamic, and this effect extends far beyond the workplace. It also appears in everyday financial transactions. Researchers analyzing real estate markets discovered something interesting. Buyers who pay for homes with cash often pay less than buyers who rely on financing. Sellers frequently accept lower offers from cash buyers because the transaction becomes faster and more reliable. Mortgage approvals can fail. Appraisals can delay deals. Paperwork can slow everything down. Cash removes these uncertainties. The deal closes quickly, and that certainty has real value. Most people cannot buy a house entirely with cash, of course, but the principle still applies to many other situations. When you need to replace a car, when you negotiate with contractors, when you purchase used items from private sellers, having money available gives you options. And when you have options, you gain leverage. There is another hidden financial effect that people rarely discuss. Economists call it the poverty premium. It describes the extra costs people pay simply because they lack cash reserves. When money is tight, it becomes harder to take advantage of cost-saving opportunities. For example, buying groceries in bulk often reduces the price per item. But if someone doesn't have the cash for larger purchases, they must buy smaller amounts more frequently at higher prices. Insurance companies often offer discounts for paying annually instead of monthly. But someone without savings may be forced to choose the monthly option, which costs more over time. Small repairs that could have been handled cheaply become expensive emergencies when they are delayed. And when time pressure is involved, people cannot wait for better deals or compare multiple options. They must choose whatever solution is available immediately. The result is a strange and frustrating financial pattern. The people with the least money often pay the most for everyday goods and services. So, how does someone escape this cycle? The first step is building a financial cushion. Most financial planners recommend saving 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses. That number might sound intimidating at first, but the process begins with consistency rather than large one-time deposits. Start by calculating your monthly costs: housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance. Basic expenses required to maintain daily life. Multiply that number by 3 to set an initial target. Then automate the process. Set up a recurring transfer from your checking account to your savings account every time your paycheck arrives. Even relatively small contributions accumulate over time. $200 per month becomes $2,400 per year. $500 per month becomes $6,000 per year. Gradually, the financial cushion grows. The money should remain accessible in a safe place, such as a high-yield savings account. This allows the funds to earn some interest while remaining available in case of emergencies. Most importantly, the emergency fund should be reserved for genuine emergencies. Unexpected medical expenses. Major repairs, loss of income. It is not meant for vacations, impulse purchases, or temporary wants. When that financial cushion reaches several months of expenses, something important happens. Stress decreases. Options increase. Decisions become more thoughtful and less reactive. Instead of constantly worrying about the next bill, people begin to think about long-term opportunities. Savings create flexibility. Flexibility creates freedom. And that freedom allows people to make better decisions about their careers, finances, and lives. So the next time you receive a paycheck, think about a simple question. If your income stopped tomorrow, how long could you comfortably continue living your current life? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? The answer to that question says far more about financial stability than a salary number ever could. And building that cushion might be one of the most powerful financial moves a person can make.